It's time for ROTD weekend. Today is my birthday. Happy birthday to me. And I'm going to indulge myself by talking about something that is not really food related at all. And so what happened is the other day, somebody asked me what I wanted for my birthday, like birthday wishes. And I said, just to relax. And then afterwards I was like, no, that's not true. What I want is more improv in my life. You know, I've been taking these improv classes at SAC Comedy Lab in Orlando. And I will tell you that I'm taking them with Marty, who also has his birthday this weekend. Our birthdays are one day apart. Isn't that adorable? But anyhow, so we've been taking these classes, and if you've heard me talk about this at all before, you might know that the reason we first started is because Marty and I are embarking on a new project, that one that I've been hinting about to you that has to do with cooking for two, and we're going to be doing some live cooking demos. Now, we haven't yet done one, so I can't make any promises about what these are going to be like exactly, but I do think they're going to be like longer, 1.5 to 2 hour live streaming cooking demos with me and Marty there and people asking questions in the comments, that kind of thing. And so Marty and I wanted to get better at just kind of being like off the cuff and responding to each other. And that's why we started taking these classes. That was back in March. Well, now we are on level 3 and I am just obsessed and addicted to improv, both performing, learning and taking classes and also going to shows. We're actually going to a show as part of our birthday weekend celebration. But I'll also say that it has just been such a beautiful experience in terms of getting to know this really random group of people. And so I guess what I want to say here is, if you've heard me talk about this or have ever thought about doing this before, if your town or city has any kind of improv comedy classes, go and check them out. I will tell you, so we're level 3 now. We have some of the same people who were in level 1 with us are now in level 3. Most of the people who were in level 2 with us are in level 3. The class is like 14 to 16 people, and we have become like really close friends. We hang out, we do things together. Crazily enough, we are not people who would necessarily have found each other in any other situation, I don't think, and I don't really mean anything by that except that we're really different. So the age range of our like group is between, I think, like 22 to 50. And the people have all kinds of different jobs. Some are married, some are dating people, some are single. They just are like very, very different from each other. And even why they're doing the class is different. I mean, there's people who have like a professional purpose that isn't exactly acting. So that's like me and Marty. There are people who were feeling kind of shy or anxious who thought that improv might help them get out of their shell. There are people who have always just wanted to try it and have jumped in and tried it. And there are people who want to make a career of this and they're like really dedicated. And all of us get along and have a blast together and have just gotten to know, I think, things about ourselves as individuals as well. I know I've gotten a lot better at conversation and spontaneity and also like trusting myself. I also make a lot more like weird little voices in conversations too. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, but that has been happening also. I don't think it's happened on this show yet, but if you hear it, you'll know where that's coming from. So anyhow, I guess I am saying if this sounds at all intriguing to you, see if there's somewhere local. Sometimes they do a trial class for free. You can go, or if not that, look for improv performances near you. I went to see Ben Schwartz and Friends live a little while ago. He was phenomenal. He is famous. Look him up. He was Sonic the Hedgehog and he was on Parks and Rec. If you didn't like him on Parks and Rec, don't worry. It's not like that at all. He is hilarious. I'm also going to see these people. They are Jess McKenna and Zach Reno. They have a podcast called Off Book. Check that out. And they improvise full musicals together, like Broadway style musicals based on suggestions that they get from the crowd. So talented, so hilarious. I listen to probably one of their podcasts every 3 days, one of these whole musicals that they've improvised, because they're just funny and talented and great. But they're coming to Orlando in December, and so we are seeing them live as well. So if you don't actually want to take classes, you could look for this kind of stuff. It is fun for the whole family, a blast. Improv. I am promoting it because I'm I'm obsessed with it. That is truth. And I will tell you that if you live in the Central Florida area and want to come and see me do improv, my level 3 showcase is on October 6th at 7 p.m. at SAC Comedy. My whole group will be there, me and Marty on stage with a bunch of others. Come and check us out. I will put the link to where you can get tickets in the show notes for the podcast episode, or go to saccomedylab.com and look up shows. You'll see us there, October 6th, level 3 showcase. That is me, crazy, right? On the comedy stage. So that is my birthday wish, more improv. And how that translated to you and me was that I talked about improv, gushed about it really, for over 5 minutes. So that is my birthday wish realized. Thank you so much for indulging me. And now for somebody else who has indulged me and delighted me. I am speaking today with Coley Gaffney, who has actually done some improv classes herself. And she was on the 10th season of the Food Network Star. She's also been on the Rachael Ray Show and the Today Show. Coley Gaffney blogs at coleycooks.com, and it is all seafood and Italian food over there. And I thought, what better on my birthday than to talk seafood with an expert. It is one of my favorite things. My dad will tell you that when they used to take me out for my birthday when I was a kid, he'd joke that if they'd handed me a menu with no prices on it, I still would have chosen the most expensive thing because my eyes always went to the crab legs and the lobster. So that is my other birthday treat beyond the improv, talking to Coley about seafood, and she has a delicious seafood recipe to share with us as well. Let's listen to my conversation with Coley Gaffney from coleycooks.com. Hey, Coley, welcome to the show.
Hey, Christine. Thanks.
So great to see you again. We were last having cocktails in Savannah, one of my favorite places. That was so great.
So much fun.
And so when we were talking, you were telling me that you specialize in Italian seafood recipes. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised at the Jersey Shore and a big family of Sicilian commercial fishermen. So my grandfather and his father and all of his brothers worked on big commercial fishing boats, fishing for giant bluefin tuna. My dad, who's Irish, not Sicilian, also worked in the industry. He worked on clam boats and scallop boats and different things. And just growing up on the coast, you're always surrounded by seafood and lots of different fish. And it's just always widely accessible and always around. And growing up in an Italian family, it always just was something that was in our bones. Italian food is what we did, going to my grandparents' house every weekend. It's just something that I always felt naturally drawn to, and it felt like the most natural thing to specialize in. So I went to culinary school. I am a professionally trained chef. And in the beginning of my career, I like to cook everything. I still like to cook everything. But when it comes to my website, I really try to specialize in those two things. So it's what I know best.
So Jersey Shore, so it's Italian seafood. Is it like American Italian seafood or Italian seafood? Or do you feel like there's a difference?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a difference, but there's overlap for sure. I do both. So, I mean, I am American. I live in America. So naturally, American type seafood recipes are going to be a big part of what I do. I went to college in Louisiana. So I had a lot of that Louisiana seafood influence. I also did a couple years in college in Maryland, and my dad currently lives in Annapolis, Maryland, right on the Chesapeake Bay. So we have a lot of influence there. And then my mom's family, the fishing family, they're originally from Gloucester, Massachusetts, which is a fishing town in Cape Ann, which is like a really iconic part of New England. So we have like kind of all of those bases covered. I'd say the only area I don't really have covered is like on the West Coast, but I love all seafood, all different types of fish. And I feel like I've gotten to experience not just the cuisine itself, but like the culture that surrounds the food in all of those different places too, which is really cool. The Italian side of things, I'm an Italophile. So I am drawn to all things Italian, and the coastal towns and cities in Italy are just they're just magical and hold a real special place in my heart. So yeah, I like to dabble in both, and really there's no end to what you can do. So I do lots of seafood, and I also do lots of just general Italian food. So desserts, meat dishes, a little bit of everything.
So I'm not sure if you have an answer to this question because as I'm thinking it, I think it might be hard. But do you have a sense of what the difference is between Italian seafood and American Italian seafood recipes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overlap, of course, right? The type of fish used, the type of seafood. I think when you go to Italy specifically, one of the things that I love about Italian cooking is that they work with what's local, period. They're not flying in fish from across the world. They're using what's coming out of their local fisheries, and they're right on the coast. And like if you go inland in Italy, there's probably not going to be a lot of fish on the plate. It's just how it works. They're going to have whatever is being locally grown in that town, in that region. And that's what I think is so beautiful about the way that they cook and prepare their food. In America, it's a little bit different. In America, you know, we love to butcher food and things from different cuisines, but there's also like a beautiful side of that too. The way that we kind of play around with different ingredients and techniques and do a lot of like fusion. So you might see different influences from different places. Like a great example of that is like living in New Jersey. We obviously have a very big Italian American population here and influence. Then when you go down to New Orleans, they also have a really big Italian American population and influence. But the cuisines are very different. So you get to really see how the surrounding culture of, you know, New Jersey or Louisiana has inspired that particular Italian American interpretation of Italian food, if that any of that made any sense at all.
But I didn't know that New Orleans, that area had a large Italian population. Do you have an example of like a Louisiana Italian dish?
Yeah, not seafood, but if you've ever had a muffaletta sandwich with like the layers of Italian meats and cheeses, and then they have this olive salad that's giardiniera and celery and olives and this bread. Actually, so the bread itself is called muffaletta. A lot of people don't know that. It's the name of the sandwich, but it's actually the name of the bread. And specifically, I believe it's Sicilian. It was Sicilian immigrants that came to New Orleans and settled there. And there's lots of great Italian spots in New Orleans. It's not as well known as, you know, the French, Cajun, Creole, but it's there. You just got to look for it.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I have a challenge for you. I know you're going to share a recipe, walk us through a recipe in a moment. But before we started recording, I did not tell you that this episode is going live on my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. And I know that Italian seafood recipes are very celebratory. So can you just like name a few things that like, if I'm going to make myself something special for my birthday or get someone in my household to make something special for me, what should they make?
Yes. Oh, wow. This is a great question. I mean, it really comes down to what you like and what you have access to. I will say when you bring up celebration and seafood and Italian food, my brain immediately goes to the Feast of the Seven Fishes that we do on Christmas Eve. So that's a really big thing in my family. I mean, coming from a Sicilian fishing family, we have a lot more than 7 fishes on the table. Interestingly, I don't know if you know this, that's actually an Italian American thing. They don't actually do that in Italy, which is, I always kind of thought they did, but I came to find out later in life that nope, it's definitely an Italian American thing.
So but anyway, I only vaguely knew about this until that episode of The Bear, the show The Bear, which I'm not sure has given me a great opinion of that because it was so crazy. But like classic crazy Italian American family, right? Having a lot of fish.
I have to say, there's a lot on that show that is very realistic. And that episode was definitely one of them.
Oh, geez. Okay, so that's my background. So, okay, more than 7 fishes you would usually have.
Oh, yeah. We have lots of different types of seafood that night. One of my personal favorites is clams casino. We always make that for Christmas Eve, either clams casino or clams oreganata. Those are both like a baked stuffed clam. One of my favorites, I think they're great for celebrating because it's just like a little bit more special than a steamed clam. They take a little bit more effort to prepare. They're great because they can also be made in advance and then just baked off right before the party. So we'll talk about this more, but I'm a huge clam lover. So clams are always on my menu when there's something celebratory. I also think there's something great about like a whole fish prepared, either on the grill or roasted or even fried if you want to get into that. Fried seafood's also another really big thing for celebrations in Italian seafood culture. Like with the Feast of the Seven Fishes, there's almost always something fried, be it calamari or shrimp or fried smelts. Those little tiny fish are really, really big. Or bacala, which is salt cod that's been soaked and usually turned into into like a fritter. So yeah, I would say a little stuffed clam, or we also like to do like stuffed shrimp that you bake. The stuffing always tends to be the same. It's like garlic, breadcrumbs, parsley, butter, white wine, lemon, and then you can kind of stuff that into the back of a shrimp or put it on a clam or do it with scallops or whatever it is and bake that off. So
I've probably had stuffed shrimp before. I must have, right? I can't picture. So you take the shrimp curls like a C, you cook it after. Cut into the back of the C, not the inside of the C. The back or the inside? Like the smaller C?
Sorry, so like if you butterfly, so like if you butterfly the shrimp so the tail's curling up, you would kind of put the stuffing like right on the top so the tail kind of curls over it a little bit.
Oh, gotcha.
So I guess that would be like the back of the shrimp.
The back of the shrimp. So it's not going into the shrimp. It's kind of going more onto it. And then as the shrimp cooks, it curls around it.
Yep, exactly. So stuffed is kind of like it's a loose term.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was trying to like, how are you getting stuff into the shrimp? And I couldn't picture it. I think I have had that before, obviously.
Even like everyone in my family will just say like baked, stuffed, whatever. So even if it's like baked stuffed scallops, it's basically just scallops broiled with the breadcrumbs on top,
Oh,
we just call it stuffed.
Oh, it's interesting. Like, I'm a former linguist in a former life, and I think about these terms. It's almost like stuffing is coming to be like reinterpreted as like the breadcrumbs or the breading. Almost like how like gratin, your gratin doesn't mean cheese,
right?
Traditionally, but in the United States, it has come to mean something with cheese on top.
That's so true. Yeah, that's really interesting. You bring that up. It's kind of a similar concept when you think about it.
Yeah, I think gratin. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it meant just something crunchy on top, right? Maybe
basically broiled, broiled to get like a crispy top. Like anything gratin. I don't speak French, so I'm going to butcher that. You're Canadian, so you probably have
gratin. Yes,
gratin. Yeah, totally messed that up.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I think just putting it under like a salamander or a boiler is basically all that is.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like when I think about like if there were like gratin potatoes now, if one of my kids ordered them at a restaurant and it did not have cheese on it, they'd be like, "What is going on here?"
Totally. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I love this. Great celebratory ideas for me for my birthday, and I'm going to tell everybody here about them so that I get them. I love fish and seafood. But now, Coley, can you tell me what recipe you have brought to share with us today?
Okay, so this one is going to be strictly American, not Italian, but it goes back to my roots, my family roots in New England, and that is for a traditional New England style clam chowder. It's one of my favorite things to cook and eat, especially this time of year when we're getting into late summer. I think chowders and like seafood soups in general are like some of the only soups that really are appropriate for summer. So I think they can be eaten year round, no matter how hot it is outside, you can still have a bowl of clam chowder.
It's so true. I hear you. Okay, so traditional clam chowder, New England, that's the white chowder, not the red chowder. Yep. And I know you're going to tell me, but you don't use canned clams in this, right?
So that's the thing. I do sometimes. I'll say this recipe can be made with canned clams or with fresh clams. The fresh clams are going to take an extra step because you have to steam them open first. You have to take the meat out of the clam shells and then you have to chop them up. You have to reserve the liquid. Make sure you're straining the liquid because it does tend to have some grit and sand and shell in it. Or you can just open up canned clams and a bottle of clam juice. And honestly, it's going to be just as good. It's the same thing for my linguine and clams recipe. Look, I live on the coast. I can go into my backyard and dig up clams if I want to. I can have clams at my house in minutes, but I make multiple recipes with canned clams all the time. Like I consider that a pantry staple for me, that I can go into my pantry and make like a delicious dish with clams. It's an underrated pantry ingredient, like for sure.
Oh, I love hearing that so much. I thought I was positive we were about to launch into a you must use fresh clams thing, which like as somebody living in Florida, we have clams off the Keys and near Gainesville. I know there's a great clam place, like a clam fishery. There's a restaurant there that has won the best clam chowder in the world contest in New England.
Really?
Several times over. They won it so many times they're not allowed to compete anymore. And they sell it in the restaurant and you can buy it in like plastic containers at the restaurant, and they also have it canned. Anyways, there are clams here, but I never buy them because they're daunting and I don't know. So I love having your permission or your enthusiastic suggestion that canned clams are fine.
Yeah, I think in the seafood world, there's a lot of things that get unfairly demonized. And I think canned seafood, also frozen seafood, both excellent products, and you should not be afraid of them. You should not look down on them. Canned clams are a fantastic product. Everyone should keep them in their pantry at all times.
So I'm going to ask you to tell us about the recipe in a moment, but now I want to know, what other canned seafoods do you really like?
Oh, well, anchovies are one of my favorite ingredients, hands down. I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Fishwife.
No.
At all, but their canned seafood is phenomenal. Actually, if you go to Europe, like Spain in particular is really known for their tinned or canned seafood. Like really, we're talking like really high end stuff. Like you can spend a lot of money. There's like restaurants that just specialize in really high end tinned seafood.
Oh,
so
wow.
they'll have like mussels that are marinated or different types of sardines. Or recently I actually was in this really cool seafood shop and they had lots of different imported tinned seafood and I got razor clams and I haven't opened them yet, but I'm so excited to try them. So yeah, lots of different things. I'd say probably more shellfish or like really small fish, like your sardines and anchovies. Sometimes you can get mackerel. Don't sleep on canned seafood. It can be really high quality.
Huh, I love this. Now I'm going to go check out the seafood aisle at the stores more carefully. I don't
Definitely
usually look there. Very
and then
exciting.
of course tuna. I mean, tuna's a staple, but everybody knows that one.
Yeah. I like canned salmon too, especially if it's the like red sockeye, like, I mean, not just for salmon sandwiches, but for,
salmon cakes are great, like burgers. Those are really good.
I've done pasta sauces, soups. Yeah, for sure.
Like I have a fish chowder on my website too. It's very similar to this one, both family recipes. And the fish chowder my mom made with canned salmon all the time growing up. Because again, it was like just something that we had in the pantry. You didn't have to make a quick run to the store to buy fresh salmon. It's just like, and it works. It's good.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so I'll let you go now, Coley. Not leave the show. I'll let you tell me how to make the recipe. Where do you start?
Okay, it's really simple. So I like to start with bacon. A lot of clam chowder recipes, like the real traditional New England clam chowder, will use salt pork. If you're familiar with that, it's sort of like a niche traditional New England ingredient. It's a little bit more difficult to find. I prefer bacon. So salt pork doesn't have the smokiness and it doesn't have the meatiness. It's really pretty much straight fat. You might have a little bit of, meat protein kind of striations in there, but it's just salty and it's fatty. So that kind of gives you like a nice base, but I like bacon. I like that it brings that smokiness in. So it's personal preference. If you want to start with the salt pork, by all means, if you have access to it, go for it. I like to do bacon. So we saute bacon in a big Dutch oven or a big soup pot, whatever you have. And I like to cook it until it gets nice and crispy. And then I remove that with a slotted spoon and set that aside because I like it to stay crispy. You can continue making the soup. You don't have to do that step, but I think it makes a nice difference when you can kind of finish the soup off with a little bit of that crispy bacon instead of it simmering away in the soup and then it gets kind of soft and not as good.
Yep, I'm with you on that for sure. So you're leaving the fat in the pot.
Oh yeah, definitely leaving all of the fat in the pot, and that's going to kind of form the foundation for cooking the celery and onion. So some people add carrot. I don't particularly like it. I think it changes the flavor. The celery is key though. The celery just adds celery is a really specific flavor. I don't even know how you would begin to describe it, but it's specific and everybody knows it. And I just think it's essential in a chowder no matter what. So we saute those and you really want to saute them over medium-ish heat until they get nice and soft and translucent. You don't want to rush the step. You don't want to get them brown, but you do want to make sure they're really nice and soft because that's going to make them just kind of meld into the soup and get really nice and happy in there. So this is a cream-based soup, so we have to thicken it. Now, I will say I do not like really thick gloppy chowders. Even though it's a cream soup, I still want it to be on the thinner side. So this is a personal preference. Sometimes I get comments on these recipes this recipe that says oh, I wish it was a little thicker. And I do have instructions to show you how to make it thicker. All you really need to do is just add more flour at this step. If you get to the end and you want to thicken it, you can make a little slurry and you can thicken it that way. But I think this is the perfect texture for my preference, for me personally. So,
I'm with you on that one. I feel like if I have a clam chowder, the word I use is stodgy. If it's stodgy.
Yeah, totally.
Like pasty. And you're talking about a home cooked chowder, but if I'm in a restaurant and I get it and it's thick like that, I think they've had it in the warmer for way too long. It's been evaporating away. It's just not right. It should have that.
Yes.
Yeah, thinner, not be stodgy. It should not be stodgy. That's what I say.
Exactly. So it's got some flour in there. So it gives you like that mouth feel where it is rich and it is thick, but it's like silky, rather than stodgy. We don't want stodgy.
No.
Okay. So once you add the flour, you're going to make your roux and then you're going to add your liquid. So I do add some bottled clam juice. If you are using canned clams, you can pour the juice out of the canned clams at this point and use that. You can also use the juice that you get from whole clams. So if you steam them open and go through the process of removing the meat and chopping them, you're going to be left with a bunch of liquid after steaming. But like I said before, it does tend to be a little gritty or sandy or just have whatever was left in those clams or on the outside. So you want to make sure you strain that really well, like put a paper towel or like several layers of cheesecloth down, because I have done this before. The last thing that you want when you finish a dish is to get those little bits of grit or sand. I mean, it ruins it. Like you start chomping on sand and you don't want to eat anymore.
Yeah, no,
no matter how good it tastes.
I think I've done something like that once or twice. It was leeks, I think, that
yes.
And then I'm like never cutting that step again. Yes, I'm chopping them and I'm rinsing them and rinsing them and rinsing them because that was awful.
They can be brutal. Leeks can be like you can wash them 1,000 times and will still have sand in them sometimes. Okay, anyway, so I add the clam juice because that gives a great salinity. It also adds more of that clam flavor, obviously, but then you're going to supplement with just plain old water. There's no need to add like stock or anything that's super flavored here. It's just not necessary. We're getting so much other flavor from other things. Then we add herbs. I like to add a little bit of thyme and a little bit of bay leaf, but those are optional. They just add a little bit more flavor and depth in the background, but you can play around and use what you have on hand.
Are you doing fresh thyme, dried thyme? Do you care?
I do care. I like fresh thyme. I think it just has a more subtle flavor. You can use dried thyme, absolutely, but dried thyme can overpower really quickly. So just like take it easy. Do like a quarter, maybe an eighth of what a recipe calls for if you're substituting dried for fresh, specifically with thyme. Yeah, it can go too far.
I've just started specifying in my recipes more because I didn't realize that I was doing this. I buy dried thyme leaves and I forget that you also can buy the dried thyme powder. Ooh. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And if you change one for the other, like it's hugely different. So if you have that powder and you do the full amount, it is not good and intense in a bad way.
It's interesting you mentioned that because that's an ingredient I never buy or even consider, the thyme powder, but you're right. I mean, a pinch of that would be enough. Yeah. It's really intense. I forgot to mention earlier also, I add a little bit of garlic. So after the celery and onions have cooked down a little bit, I add some garlic and let that just saute for a minute or two till the flavor comes out, and then we move on with the roux.
Okay, great. And so we've added the liquid and the herbs, and what's next?
So at the same time as you're adding the liquid and the herbs, you're also going to add your potatoes. Potatoes are standard in any chowder. If you don't add potatoes, it's not chowder. I like to use red skins here, and I leave the skin on. So again, that's personal preference. One, it's easier. Peeling potatoes is like arguably one of the most annoying things to have to do in the kitchen, but I like the color that they add, and I like the texture of the skins. So I always leave it on. And I like red skins because they're waxy, but they're not quite as waxy as a Yukon Gold. You can substitute, you can really use whatever potato that you have. I do find though that a russet will fall apart eventually. It's usually good when you first serve it, but if you're going to save the leftovers for the next day, which I highly recommend, the russets usually do fall apart a little bit. So
you end up with mashed potato clam chowder instead of clam chowder.
Listen, if all I have in the pantry is russets, you better believe I'm using russets. So I also like to heavily salt, not heavily, but well salt the broth at this point because the potatoes are going to absorb that liquid. So it's important to season the broth, which will then season the potatoes. So you're going to bring that up to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, and then just let that cook pretty much until the potatoes are tender. And then at that point, you can remove the bay leaf and the thyme sprig, and then you can stir in the clams. I like to add back some of the bacon at this point, but not all of it, because then I like to use it as a garnish. And then you're going to add the cream. So I like heavy cream. My mom would skimp all the time when we were kids and do half and half, but it was never as good. Look, if you're going to make New England clam chowder, you should have the cream. And then you can finish with either fresh chives or fresh parsley. You could add more fresh thyme if you wanted to. And that's pretty much it. That's the recipe. You ladle it up, sprinkle more of that reserved bacon or fresh herbs if you want, and serve it with some oyster crackers or crusty bread. And that's it. It's such a simple soup to make. It really is.
It really is. And it seems like it would be more complicated because it's like
Yeah, exactly.
restaurant food or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, if you are starting with fresh clams, it's going to add a layer of, I don't want to say complication, but it's going to, it adds more steps to the recipe for sure. But if you're using canned clams, I mean, we're talking like weeknight recipe here.
Love it. Love it.
You know?
Or birthday celebration recipe, because I could totally go for this on my birthday.
I mean, look, I did say that this was appropriate for all year round, including the summer, but it is hot down in Florida in the summer.
It is, but because of that, we eat soup all the time, or I do. I can't wait. I can't wait for cool weather for cozy food. I can't. I will never get to have it.
That's a really good point.
It's true with clothing too. Like as soon as September comes, even if it's hot out, because it's hot out, I'm wearing like my boots with my jeans, and I'm putting a cardigan over my shoulder, if not putting it on, because I want to pretend that it's fall.
I hear you.
Coley, this has been lovely. Can you let everybody know where they can find you online if they want more of your amazing Italian seafood recipes?
Of course. So my website is coleykooks.com. That's spelled Coley. My name is Coley, but that's just short for Nicole. So you drop the N, add a Y at the end, and you get Coley. So coleykooks.com, and you can find me on pretty much every social media at Coley Cooks. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christine. It was a pleasure.
So wonderful. Clam chowder is one of my favorite things, or, seafood chowders generally. Mom, if you are listening, I know you remember as well as I do. You are probably thinking about it right now. When we were in Halifax for my brother's baseball tournament years and years ago, I think I was maybe 15. My mom and I would walk from the team's hotel down to this little restaurant, and we would have the lobster chowder, I think it was, but it might have been clam chowder. It was delicious chowder, and I think we walked back and forth there so many times. When I think of clam chowder, I think of wonderful times with my mom. I mean, you guys know there is always delicious food when my mom is around, and actually she has a birthday coming up soon also. I wish that we could have some chowder together. Maybe we'll figure something out soon, but thank you so much, Coley, for that recipe and for putting that wonderful memory in my mind. Such a beautiful thing for my birthday. Everybody go and check Coley out online, coleykooks.com. And she is Coley Cooks on Instagram. Coley is spelled Coley. So it's ColeyCooks.com. And you will get delicious Italian and seafood recipes there. And this clam chowder recipe too. And I'll link to that in the show notes for you also. Okay, what is going on in my kitchen this week? There is a lot. So I am testing a couple of recipes for Cook the Story, and then also a couple of recipes for Cook for Two, which I keep hinting about, but you will find out about it one day. Not yet, but you know a lot about it, just not everything. Anyhow, for Cook the Story and the Cookful, I am working on a smothered pork chop recipe. So, I have a smothered chicken thigh recipe that has just gone crazy on social media, and everybody who makes it loves it, and everybody I've made it for has raved about it. And so I thought, you know what? I need to do this for pork chops also. So it's almost the same thing, but pork chops and smothered and gravy and onions and delicious. So that recipe I am working on this week. Also, Instant Pot chicken drumsticks, just basic, like for meal prep. How much time do they need? What's the best way to cook them? Do you need to brown them first? All of that. Instant Pot drumsticks I am working on this week. And then for recipes for two, I am trying to perfect a small batch lasagna cooked in a loaf pan, so that if you are craving lasagna, but you don't want to make this big casserole that takes forever to put together, and instead you just want it up for like two people with leftovers, that's what I'm aiming for. And I'm also aiming for it to involve not having to pre-boil the noodles, and for the meat to be something that's already cooked. So you could use like leftover cooked ground beef, or any kind of leftover chicken, or like a pre-cooked sausage sliced up in there, so that really you're just assembling and baking and not having to do a whole bunch of other stuff, but you still get all those wonderful lasagna flavors. So far, I will tell you, I've tested it a couple times. One time it was way too saucy. Another time the noodles were not cooked very well. So This week is the third time. Third time's the charm though, right? I think I'm going to get it. So that is what is happening in my kitchen this week. As to what is going live on the website, there's a recipe going up on the Cookful that really surprised me by how much my family liked it. So this was one of those things that, oh gosh, how did this even happen? It goes back so far at this point. So one day I was in the grocery store in the frozen food section, and there were bags of frozen meatballs on for buy one, get one free. And I wasn't going to buy them. And then there was a lady sampling the meatballs at the end of the aisle. And I had one and I was like, actually, that's pretty good. And wow, that's cheap. And so I bought 2 bags of those meatballs. And then I didn't really know what to do with them. So the first night I literally used them as I would do like if I was making beef stroganoff, but with these meatballs in it instead. So it's almost like having pre-cooked ground beef. Like it's just half the work is done because the meatballs are fully cooked, right? And everybody gobbled it up and raved about it. So I ended up making it again a couple weeks later. And then I was like, you know what? I need to write this down and know exactly what I did. And they like it so much, it has to go on the website. So now there is a recipe going up on the Cookful this week for a meatball stroganoff that uses grocery store frozen meatballs, but you can of course use your own meatballs that you have pre-made and frozen or that you've made just for this. So you do not have to buy those meatballs that were being sampled at the grocery store. Whatever you like will work, but it is super convenient if you have cooked meatballs in your freezer to be able to like just put them with this like gravy and have dinner almost made, So that recipe is going live on the site this week. And then on Cook the Story, I have a recipe for homemade teriyaki sauce that uses pantry staples. Do you want to guess how this happened? You know how it happened. I was doing a chicken teriyaki dinner for the kids one night. Marty wasn't here. And I thought we had teriyaki sauce in the fridge. And so that was my plan. And I told the kids we were having it and they really like it because they like that mall food court teriyaki. So I told them we were having it. And so I'm all ready to make it. Veggies are chopped. Everything's done. I open the fridge. There's no teriyaki sauce in there. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I looked online. I got some guidelines. I didn't have all the ingredients. I made some substitutions and I have to tell you, it was pretty good. Good enough that I added it onto my testing photography list to give it a try and see if I could perfect it even further. So this is a teriyaki sauce that uses ingredients that you are likely to have in your own pantry so that you could just whip up a batch when you need it or when you, like me, realize you don't have any when you thought you did. So that recipe is going live on Cook the Story this week. So you need to check those out. Now, I am going to remind you here, if you haven't already, that you should bookmark cookthestory.com and thecookful.com on your browser because there are so many AI recipes out there right now. You cannot trust websites or anything, actually. Is this a real person? Did somebody really test this and make this? But you do know that I am making and testing all of the recipes that are on both of my websites. And you know that I'm using a normal American kitchen to do this. I don't have some fancy chef kitchen, fancy tools. I have the same things you have, but I test things rigorously here in my standard normal kitchen so that you know the recipes are going to work and they're going to be delicious and you can trust them. They were made and tasted by real people. So important. So bookmark those sites. Or the other thing that you can do is when you're searching for a recipe, like if you want to make a roast chicken or you want to make meatballs, you can search for my full name followed by the thing you're searching for. So you would search for Christine Pittman roast chicken or Christine Pittman meatballs, Christine Pittman teriyaki sauce, whatever it is. And then what Google does is it actually ends up searching both of my websites for you and gives you all kinds of results. So if you're searching for roast chicken, Christine Pittman, you're probably going to get my roast chicken recipe and also how to carve a chicken and probably also something about spatchcocking a chicken. So you'll just have a whole bunch of things chosen for you, all my recipes that you know you can trust. So do those things, bookmark my sites, search for Christine Pittman and recipes, and then you know that you're going to get delicious things. Okay, I want to say a big thank you to Coley Gaffney for being such an amazing guest and sharing such a special birthday recipe with me. Don't forget to check her out, coleycooks.com. And a big thank you to you for listening, for sharing this bit of my birthday with me, and for visiting my website insights and for all those comments and ratings you guys are leaving. I really appreciate all of that. I really am so happy that you're out there. Thank you. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.